The Yeno homeworld once shined like a jewel. Forests stretched over mountains, their cities floated over rivers, songs echoed through sky-towers, but now, everything was fire. Above the capital city of Vicarel, massive alien warships hovered. Like vultures, they fired without pause. Glass towers shattered. Parks turned to craters. People ran, but nowhere was safe. The invaders were the Trelvix scavenger conquerors, known for hitting weak worlds, fast, cruel, no mercy, and the Yen were peaceful. They had no army, no fleets, no weapons. Only hope. Inside the citadel Vicaraldi, beneath the burning city. Inside a stone chamber older than most civilizations, Aliari, a young Yenner girl, hid with her little brother. The air shook with distant explosions. Dust fell from the ceiling. Their mother had told them to run. She never came back. Aliari's fur was matted with ash, her golden eyes wide with fear. In front of her stood an ancient machine around a beacon, silent for centuries. Only in the final hour, the Yenura elders had always said, if all else fails, call those who once protected the stars. Her hands trembled. She had never seen a Terran, only read of them in old scrolls. The galaxy said humans were gone or had stopped caring, but Aliari had no one else left to ask. She touched the beacon at HUMMED. Lights blinked for the first time in 60 years. A soft voice whispered, emergency signal, Terran protocol, accepted. Then the machine launched a single pulse and brightened to space. Outer galaxy deep space listening post, Sigma 9, thousands of light years away. Near the edge of Terran-controlled space, a small listening station drifted in silence. Just 3 people worked inside. Nothing exciting ever happened there. Lieutenant Mara Chen, Terran signal officer, sipped old coffee and stared at monitors full of static. Most of her job was listening to background noise, dead satellites, old coms, solar flares. But today, the silence broke. A new light pulsed on her screen. Not loud, not sharp, just steady. She frowned. What's this? She tapped into the feed. Old Terran code. Handshake request. Emergency class. Civilian extinction. Mara's heart skipped. She leaned forward, brushing hair from her eyes. The signal was weak, warped by dust and distance. But it was real, and inside it was a voice, faint, broken, small. Please, someone, we are the Yenna, we are dying. The stars won't answer us, the Union won't come, we beg. Whoever hears us, please. A pause, a breath, a sound of distant screams, then silence again. Terran Core Council 30 minutes later, back on Earth, inside a black tower above. The cloud's 12 high-ranking officials watched Mara's recording. Some looked skeptical, some confused. The Yenna thought they were extinct. This could be bait, a Trelvex trap. Admiral Corinvale, silver-haired and quiet, stood up. They're alive, he said. And they called us. Not the Union, not the trade hubs, US. A young commander asked, are we going to act? Vale turned toward the screen. It showed a satellite image of the burning Yenna world. Trelvex fleets swarming over it like insects. We always say we stand for the forgotten, Vale said. Well, someone just remembered us. He tapped the table once. Ready a ship. Yenor homeworld capital ruins. Eliari clutched her brother close. They had crawled back up to the surface after the beacon sent its message. The sky was orange, now lit by flames and falling ships. Giant Trelvex walkers moved through the city, tearing down monuments. Smoke choked the air. No one's coming, a Yenner elder whispered. The galaxy left us long ago. Eliori didn't respond. She stared at the sky, waiting, hoping back. At listening post, Sigma 9 Mara sat alone again, still staring at the signal's trail. She had rewatched the message 6 times. The face of that Yenner girl burned into her. Thoughts taught. She tapped her console and whispered to herself, you're not alone. She didn't know the full story. Didn't know if the council would approve. Full intervention. Didn't know how many humans would come. But she did know one thing. Humanity had once promised to defend the weak. And some promises should never be forgotten. Final scene. Deep in the blackened, the void between systems. An old Terran warship stirred from dark. It had dust on its hull, scratched paint, outdated weapons. But its heart still burned strong. TNS Valor's edge. Its engines roared to life. Inside, crew of 50 prepared for launch. They had seen the signal, heard the girl, watched the flames. And now, they were going. Final line cliffhanger. Galaxy had moved on from the Yenna, but Earth hadn't, not yet. And someone was finally coming. The ship sat silent in orbit, like a sword waiting to be drawn. TNS Valor's edge, an old Terran destroyer, black-hulled and deep-scarred from forgotten wars, was now fully awake. It wasn't part of any current Terran fleet deployment. It hadn't seen combat in a decade. Its name had nearly faded from Terran records, but today it had a mission. Terran Council orders. Stand down. Admiral Corinvale stood on a secure channel, hands clasped behind his back. Behind his, the screen showed the Yenna signal still looping, the girl's soft voice barely audible. We are dying. Please. Across the screen, a red stamp appeared. Terran High Council, now intervention. Vale stared at it for a long moment. We cannot risk war with the Trelvix, the message said. Yennar territory is outside Terran jurisdiction. Aid missions are suspended. Do not engage. The other admirals, agreed, quiet, careful, political. But Admiral Vale wasn't just a soldier. He remembered the first oath humanity swore when it joined the stars. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. He turned off the message and walked straight to the bridge. Bridge TNS Valis Edge. Captain Silas Drew stood at attention as Vale entered. Council says to stand down, Silas said, reading his data slate. I read it. Vale replied calmly. We're going anyway. Raised an eyebrow, sir. That's an illegal deployment. Unauthorized use of fleet resources. A full Class 3 violation. Vale didn't blink, then mark it in the log. History will decide if we were wrong. Silas nodded. A smile crept onto his face. I've already warmed up the jump drive. The crew decides one by one. The ship's crew was informed there would be no backup, no political cover, no rescue if things went wrong. Lieutenant Ashakor, the ship's chief medic, packed extra trauma kits. Engineer Keller Ray reinforced the hull plating with salvaged alloy. Marine Commander Griggs didn't ask questions. He simply loaded 3 dropships and told his squad, we don't run from screams. Not a single crew member requested reassignment. They all stayed. Because sometimes, duty wasn't about orders, it was about doing what was right. Mara's mess. On listening post Sigmanine, Lieutenant Mara Chen sent a private signal to the Valor's Edge before it vanished into deep space. If you reach them, tell the girl someone heard her. Tell her we came. Deep space mid-jump. Valor's Edge cut across subspace like a knife, far from standard Terran lanes. They didn't request clearance. They didn't file flight logs. This was a ghost mission. Inside the war room, Vale stood before a galaxy map. He marked 3 systems near the Yenna homeworld scouted by Trelvex slavers. They'll be waiting, Captain Silas said. Let them, Vale answered. They think the Yenna are alone. Let's show them they're not. Meanwhile, Yenna's sky darkens over the burning ruins of Vicarel. The Trelvex fleet deployed planetary mining ships. They weren't just here to kill, they were here to strip. The planet mountains were broken open, rivers were redirected, bodies ignored. In an underground shelter, Oliari held her brother tightly. Every hour, fewer people came back from the surface. Some Yenna begged for mercy, others cursed the stars. But Eliari stared up and whispered to herself, they're coming. I know they're coming. Trelvex broadcast across the sector across nearby systems. The Trelvex sent out a smug message. Yenna's system is under new control. Their people are scattered. Their world belongs to us. No one cares. No one dares stop us. They laughed at the idea of Terran involvement. Humans are too noble to act without approval. Their warlord sneered they'll send words. Not warships, but they hadn't seen the Valor's Edge. Not yet. Final approach. Broken orbit as the destroyer emerged near the Yenna system. Its sensors picked up wreckage, dozens of old escape pods. Lifeless. Scorched. The crew stood silent. Captain Silas whispered. Too late. Vale answered. Not yet. The ship crept forward, power low. Weapons cold. Not to hide. To observe. Below. The capital still burned, but survivors still moved. Vale pointed to the drop bay. Suit up. We land at nightfall. Terran drop command. Silent Wings. 3 sleek dropships launched from the Valor's Edge. Black metal gliding through darkness. They didn't broadcast, didn't signal arrival. Terran boots hit the ground quietly. Griggs led the Marines through broken alleys. Kor followed with her medics, searching for any survivors. A small Yenno child, hiding under a collapsed tram, looked up to see a strange, armored figure reach down, offering water and warmth. He whispered, are you ghosts? Griggs smiled under his helmet. No, we're the answer. Final scene. The sky changes as the first rescued civilians were moved to safety. One of the Marines pointed upward. High above, breaking through the clouds, the Valor's Edge moved into position. Its lights flared on. Its cannons rotated toward the enemy fleet. A signal was sent, short and clear. This is Terran warship Valor's Edge. Your assault on civilian life ends now, or we will end it for you. Final line. Cliffhanger. Trelvex believed no one would come. They were wrong. Humanity just broke its own rules and entered the fire. The world of the Yenna was no longer green, where once forests grew tall and bright rivers flowed. Now there was only smoke, ash, and silence. Above the shattered capital of Vicarel, the sky flickered with flames. Black clouds choked the sun. Alien ships drifted like metal vultures, circling the ruins below. But something had changed. The predators weren't alone anymore. Terran. Dropship Descent Commander Griggs stared through his visor at the scorched ground below. His squad of Terran Marines sat behind him, quiet, focused. No one spoke. They all knew what this mission meant. The dropship doors opened with a hiss. Warm smoke rolled in, the smell of death. Griggs looked to his second-in-command. No speeches, no banners, just find the survivors and hit back hard. First contact in the ruins of an old Yenner school. A few dozen civilians had gathered, frightened, starving, and silent. Among them was Eliari, clutching her younger brother's hand tightly. The sound of engines made everyone freeze. Then a new noise. Not Trelvex walkers, not drones, but boots heavy steady. Terran Marines stepped out of the mist, tall, armored, faceless, behind their black helmets. Yenna elders flinched. Invaders, one whispered, but Aliari stepped forward, trembling. She stared up at the largest one. Griggs and asked in a shaky voice, "Are you from Earth?" Griggs didn't remove his helmet. He only nodded once. "We heard your call. Medical tents rise within 2 hours." The Terrans set up a secure zone. Drones deployed shields. Medics unpacked kits. Engineers repaired old Yenna transmitters. Lieutenant Ashakor, the lead medic, knelt beside a wounded elder. "We brought help," she said gently, cleaning a burn wound. The elder blinked, confused. "But why? We are nothing. The Union left us. Even our allies forgot." Kor smiled sadly. "Humanity doesn't forget." The hidden elders warning that night, in a stone hall buried under the ruins, the oldest living Yenna elder, Van Haleth, was brought before Admiral Vale. The elder was weak, but proud. His fur was white, his eyes dim, but his voice still carried strength. "You should not be here," he said. "The Trelvex will bring more, and the Union will not defend you," Vale replied calmly. "Then we'll defend ourselves." The elder stared at him. "You would risk Earth for us," Vale nodded. "You are alive. That's reason enough." A long silence. Then Van Haleth whispered, "There is something you must know. The Trelvex didn't come alone. The true enemy in the holographic chamber aboard Valor's Edge." A scan showed movement behind the Trelvex fleet, cloaked vessels, barely visible even to Terran tech. Unknown pattern, unknown origin. Vale stared at the readings. "These aren't Trelvex. Too disciplined, too quiet." Silas frowned. "You think someone else sent them?" Vale nodded. "This invasion isn't about scavenging. It's about erasing the Yenna completely. Terran AI speaks the ship's onboard AI EVA. Activated without prompt." Her voice was smooth, cold, and exact. "Pattern match complete. Cloaked ships, share design similarities with pre-Union ghost fleets. Probability of blacklisted contractor involvement, 91%. Primary goal, biocultural erasure." Silas turned to Vale. "Someone paid mercenaries to make sure the Yenna didn't survive." Vale replied, "Then they'll learn what happens when you try to erase history while Terrans are still breathing." A spark of hope at dawn. The first rays of real sunlight broke through the smoke. Aliori stood beside her brother, watching the humans raise a temporary shield around the ruins. One of the Terran drones dropped emergency rations in neat stacks. Another deployed clean water units. Children laughed for the first time in days. Ashakor watched them play, even just for a moment. "They still believe in something," she whispered. "The enemy reacts from high orbit," the Trelvex commander received. "The latest scans. Human activity detected. Medical tents, ground troops, anti-air positions forming." He laughed. "3 ships, 50 humans. This is their rescue," his second officer said quietly. "There's also a Terran destroyer." The commander paused. "Which one?" "Valor's Edge, sir." The Trelvex fell silent. He knew that name. So did anyone who had read Terran war history. It meant trouble. Final moment. A light in the smoky. Liari sat on a broken step, drawing something in the ash with her fingers. A circle, a star, then a strange shape. A cross with 2 lines, a Terran symbol. "Why are you drawing that?" her brother asked. Aliori looked up. "Because they came for us." Final line, cliffhanger. The galaxy had tried to bury the Yenna in silence, but now Earth had arrived, and the silence was over. The smoke over the Yenna capital never stopped rising. It was thick, it was black, it had a taste, ash, blood, and burning steel, but under the choking sky, hope had landed. Terran soldiers now walked the ground. Their boots crunched over ruins, their eyes scanned the shadows. They were calm, they were ready, and most of all they were angry. Recon drones returned inside the operations tent. Set between 2 broken Yennar buildings, holograms flickered with new intel. Lieutenant Rico stood over the table, watching small red dots move across the map. "They're closing in," she said. "Trelvex ground troops, scout class. No armor, light rifles, but they're sweeping the city fast." Captain Silas Drew nodded. "They want to finish the job before anyone can stop them." Admiral Vale stepped in. "Then we stop them first." "Griggs gets the order, Commander." Griggs stood silently while Vale gave the command. "Engage, full force, but keep the medics covered. We're not just here to fight, we're here to shield life." Griggs nodded once, then he turned to his Marines. "Trelvex scum coming in. They shoot civilians. They bomb children. They think this place is theirs now." He raised his rifle. "Let's remind them what Terrans do to cowards." The drop begins. 3 Terran dropships lifted off from the safe zone. Their hulls were dark, engines silent, no lights, no warnings. They moved low through the rubble. Inside, the Marines checked their gear, plasma rifles, kinetic grenades, EMP packs, faces hard, eyes forward. No one joked. No one laughed. This wasn't a mission. This was justice. Ashakor joins the ground crew at the last moment. Lieutenant Ashakor joined one of the dropships. "Ma'am, it's not safe," Griggs told her. "I'm a medic, not a tourist," she replied. "And they're going to need me." He gave a short nod. "No more words." Enemy scouts advance in the broken streets near the central ruins. A Trelvex squad moved carefully. They were fast, tall, skin like iron bark. One raised a scanner. No resistance, he said. Only civilians and broken structures. The humans are weak. Suddenly his scanner cracked, then exploded. Before he could shout, a burst of plasma fire tore through the squad. One Trelvex dropped, then two more. Screams followed. From the rooftops, from the smoke, Terran Marines appeared like ghosts. Urban combat begins. Griggs' team hit hard and fast. Two teams flanked the enemy from both sides, using alleyways and broken tunnels. Terran targeting A's lit up the battlefield, highlighting every movement, every threat. A drone hovered overhead, jamming Trelvex comms. The aliens panicked. They tried to regroup. They didn't get far. Sector clear, came the report. Civilians secured. Aliari watches from below from a hidden shelter. Aliari and other Yenna children heard the blasts, the fire, the chaos. One child began to cry. Aliari, shaking, whispered, "It's okay. That's not the enemy. That's them." She pressed her hand to the wall and closed her eyes. The Terrans are here. Wounded civilians discovered as the battle cleared. Ashakor moved in with her medics. They found burned Yenna, broken legs, missing arms. One old mother, barely breathing. Asha didn't hesitate. She dropped beside the woman, pulled out her kit, and began sealing wounds. Yenna stared at her. "You're fighting and healing." Asha smiled without stopping her work. "That's what humans do. We break the ones who hurt you and patch the ones who survived." Unexpected enemy reinforcements. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the street. A Trelvex walker, small but armed, came around the corner. It fired twin cannons, ripping up the road. Asha threw herself over a wounded Yenner boy. Down. Griggs raised his launcher and fired. The shell hit the walker dead center, causing it to collapse in flame. Smoke cleared. Asha stood, helping the boy to his feet. He looked at her in awe. "You're not afraid?" She smiled. "No, we've seen worse than this." Aliari steps into the lighthouse. The last enemy scout was cleared. The shelters began opening. One by one, Yenna stepped out, eyes wide, fur singed, limbs shaking. Aliari walked among them, holding her brother's hand. She saw the Terrans standing in the street. She saw one of them, Griggs, lower his weapon and nod at her. She didn't smile. She just whispered, "You came." Griggs knelt and said, "We always do." Admiral Vale's broadcast back aboard Valor's Edge. Admiral Vale sent out a transmission on all open channels. "This is Admiral Corin Vale of the Terran Federation. We have landed forces on the Yenna homeworld. We are protecting civilians. Any attack on them will be met with full military response. This is not a threat. This is a promise." Trelvex panic in orbit. The Trelvex fleet leaders shouted over each other. "They brought a destroyer. They've dropped troops. They're not even asking permission." Panic turned to fury. "Then we strike back. Bring the siege fleet. Burn the humans off the planet." Final line cliffhanger. The Terrans didn't come for territory. They didn't come for war. They came because someone cried for help. And Earth still listens. But now the Trelvex are coming in force. And the fire is just beginning. The first battle on the ground had ended. Terran Marines stood victorious over a broken Trelvex scouting unit. Civilians were safe for now. But above the planet, deep in orbit, something much worse was coming. The Trelvex were not retreating. They were preparing their answer. The siege fleet approaches in the darkness of space. Massive alien ships emerged from the Void 6 destroyers, 2 carriers, and 1 dreadnought, all bristling with weapons, all targeting the Yenna world. Each vessel bore the red-marked symbol of the Trelvex conquest. Armada inside the lead dreadnought. Commander Verasis Thune stood before his officers. "The humans have overstepped. They believe they can interfere in Trelvex operations." He slammed his clawed hand down on the table. "Show them what happens when they interfere with a strong." Back on the ground, Admiral Vale received the update from orbit. He stared at the screen. A red dot became 5, then 8, then 10. Captain Silas Drew read out loud, "Trelvex siege fleet inbound. Arrival in 7 hours." Griggs didn't hesitate. "We hold the ground." But Vale raised a hand. "No, holding isn't enough anymore." He looked around at the small command group. "Earth gave us silence, but now Earth will hear us." An unofficial call. Vale walked to the ship's encrypted comms chamber. He activated a code hidden from standard protocols. Black Flare-9. It wasn't just military. It was personal. A direct line to Terran command. His face appeared on a black screen. A voice answered, "Cold female. This channel is unauthorized. State your purpose." Vale looked straight at the camera. "This is Admiral Corin Vale. I'm breaking silence. The Trelvex are coming to finish the Yenna. If Earth waits, they'll succeed." A pause. Then, the voice replied, "Are you requesting but support?" "No," Vale answered. "I'm not requesting, I'm warning. If you don't send help, you'll be explaining to the galaxy why Earth let a peaceful species burn." The screen cut out. Vale turned. He had taken the risk now. It was up to Earth. On Earth, 26 minutes later, high in the orbital command tower above Terra Prime, red alarms began flashing. Operators stared as long-range reports came in. "Unauthorized Deployment. Active combat zone. Civilian species threatened. Terran asset Admiral Vale. A single line of text began blinking on the main screen. Terran ally in crisis. Below it, another prompt. Authorize strategic response. YN. And then a green button was pressed. Earth responds. Earth responds. Earth responds. Hangars opened. Massive warships long thought retired. Roared to life. Fleets began moving quiet, fast. Deadly. Every vessel bore the insignia of Terran command. Not peacekeepers. Not diplomats. Warships. Meanwhile, on the Yenna planet, Tiliari helped distribute food packets to other children in the safe zone. She looked up at the sky. Smoke still covered the stars, but a part of her felt something different, like the air was charged, like something huge was coming. She whispered to herself, "They won't leave us. I know they won't." 12X Dreadnought enters orbit. Commander Thune's ship was the first to arrive. He smiled as he saw the ruined world below. His second-in-command said, "No Terran fleet in orbit, only the one destroyer." Thune laughed. They sent one ship, then we send one message. First shot fired. A massive plasma beam shot from the 12X Dreadnought. It didn't aim for the Terran ship. It hit the mountainside. Just beyond the safe zone, a shockwave tore across the ground. Dust and fire rolled toward the shelters. Terran shields held but barely. Children screamed. Civilians hit the floor. "Commander," Griggs growled, "they're testing us." Vale replied, "Then let's answer." Vale's edge moves inside the old Terran destroyer. Engines hummed hotter. Cannons rotated. Shields powered up. Captain Silas looked at his crew. "Brace for orbit. Defense. We're outnumbered 10-1. A gunner smiled. "Wouldn't be fun otherwise." Suddenly, a shadow arrives just as the next 12X ship lined up for another strike. Space rippled. A new ship dropped out of FTL. Then another. Then 6 more. Fleet Alpha 92. Sleek black hulls, glowing with blue energy. Each one a destroyer class or higher. And then the supercarrier. Its hull spanned kilometers. Its shadow blocked a third of the sky. On its side, one word: mercy. Open channel broadcast. Clear human voice filled every radio, every frequency, every fleet speaker across orbit. "To the 12X Armada, your assault ends here. You targeted civilians. You opened fire on medics. You aimed your guns at the forgotten. You have made one mistake. You reminded Earth why it built warships." 12X Panic Commander Thune stared at the incoming Terran fleet. His mouth opened but no words came. He looked at his weapons officer. "Target the nearest one. Fire everything." The officer hesitated. "They lave locked us first." Valor's edge fires first with perfect timing. Valor's edge released a barrage of plasma shells and railgun slugs. One of the incoming 12X cruisers was hit mid-engine. It exploded instantly. The war had begun. Final line cliffhanger. The stars above the Yenna were once filled with death. Now, they burned with Terran fury. The 12X came for a massacre, but what they got was Earth's full attention. Above the ruined planet of the Yenna, the stars had changed. Once filled with burning wreckage and 12X warships, they now shone with something far more dangerous: Terran warships. They didn't speak in warnings. They didn't threaten. They simply arrived and made their presence known. And at the center of them all hovered the TSV Mercy, Earth supercarrier, a ship so massive, its shadow reached the clouds below. It was named Mercy, but it didn't come to show any reacts too late. Commander Varaz's Thune stared at the growing wall of Terran vessels. His mouth was dry. How did they respond so fast?" he growled. No one answered. His fleet was now outnumbered. Worse, outclassed. The Terran destroyers weren't just newer. They were battle-tested and they moved like predators. "Open fire," he shouted. "Target their flanks, push them back." Missiles launched. Plasma beams cut the sky. But Earth was ready. Mercy speaks from deep within the TSV Mercy. The voice of Admiral Rhea Calder echoed through every Terran ship. Her voice was calm, cold, focused. 12X vessels. You fired on a protected species. You struck unarmed medics. You ignored our first warning. Now we respond. This is not a show of force. This is a lesson in consequence. Terran guns unleashed in perfect sync. The Terran fleet lit up. Blue beams, railgun bursts, kinetic torpedoes. Every 12X ship in range was hit within 6 seconds. 2 12X cruisers lost engines and drifted. Burning. One corvette tried to flee, was deleted mid-jump by a long-range rail slug from Valor's edge. Yenna on the ground. Watch the sky burn in the ruined city below. Aliari and her brother looked up. For the first time in weeks, the skies were not full of fear but firepower. Children gathered outside the shelters, pointing at the glowing shapes above. One young Yenna asked, "What's happening?" Ashakor answered quietly, "That's Earth, when it gets serious." Griggs leads the advance while the Terran fleet fought in orbit. Commander Griggs wasn't waiting. With confirmation that the enemy was distracted, he led a strike team into one of the last occupied zones. Intel showed a 12X command bunker, hidden beneath the city. "We cut their orders. We cut the head," he said. His Marines nodded. No fear, no hesitation. They moved fast, sweeping alleys, climbing walls, and dropping drones ahead. Trelvex command bunker. Inside the bunker, the Trelvex officers were arguing. One wanted to retreat, one demanded reinforcements. Then boom, the ceiling cracked. The wall exploded inward. Terran Marines rushed in through the dust and debris. Griggs shouted, "On the ground, hands where I can see." One Trelvex officer raised a weapon. A stun round dropped him instantly. They didn't kill, they didn't torture, they just won. Data recovered in the back room of the bunker. A Terran tech specialist recovered something critical. A black data core encrypted with Trelvex fleet orders. She brought it straight to Valor's edge. Vale stared at the data. "What's on it?" the tech replied. "Proof that the Trelvex were paid. This wasn't a war, it was a contract. Someone hired them to wipe out the Yeno." Vale's eyes narrowed. Who? She hesitated. "The encryption. It's galactic. Union origin." Back on Earth, the truth reaches home. The data was broadcast directly to Terran High Command. A live feed followed. Millions across Earth watched the footage. Janur cities burning, medics shot during landings, human soldiers rescuing children, and now, proof that the Trelvex had been hired. Public outcry exploded. News anchors whispered, "Earth was right." Hashtags trended. Hashtag TERRANS protect. Hashtag not forgotten. And quietly, nations approved military expansions. Trelvex fleet tries to retreat. Commander Thune, now badly wounded, gave the order. Retreat. Abandon the operation. Jump to fallback coordinates. But Earth was done allowing escape. Mercy launched its final warning shot. A charged solar lance pierced the dreadnought's engine core, cutting it in two. Thune didn't even have time to scream. His fleet shattered behind him. Final message from Earth. Admiral Calder sent one last transmission. "This is the price of striking the helpless. Earth may be far, but we are always watching. If you harm the forgotten, you'll remember us forever." Peace begins, but the mystery grows. With the Trelvex defeated, Terran ships began rebuilding what could be saved. Engineers dropped modular hospitals. Marines helped clear debris. Medics treated thousands, but in the quiet of Valor's edge. Admiral Vale met with his staff. He held the data core in one hand. Someone powerful wanted the Yena gone. Not enslaved, erased. "Captain," Silas asked. "And now?" Vale stared out the window at the burning wrecks. "Now we find out who they are." Final line, cliffhanger. The war over Velmara was over. The skies were clear. The Trelvex fleet had been crushed. Terran medics moved freely through the ruins, helping Yena civilians. But in the shadows of orbit, aboard the Valor's edge, a different war had just begun. One of weapons but secrets. The data core unlocks. Varl Coronvale stood beside a Terran intelligence officer, watching a black holographic screen slowly decrypt the stolen Trelvex data core. Lines of alien code unraveled. Then a name appeared. Not a Trelvex name. Not even a pirate group. Faction within the Galactic Union itself. Section 7. Vale read aloud. Captain Silas Drew leaned in. "Didn't that get shut down years ago?" Vale frowned. "No, it went dark. There's a difference." "Who are Section 7? Back on Earth, the name Section 7 triggered alarms. Old records, redacted files, buried scandals. Officially, they had been disbanded after several human rights violations decades ago. Unofficially, they never stopped working. They were an intelligence division that operated above the law, used mercenaries, created wars, and erased species in the name of galactic balance. Now Vale had proof that they'd hired the Trelvex to exterminate the Yenar. Why target the Yenar? The next file made things worse. A decrypted memo from Section 7 to Trelvex leadership read, "The Yena have knowledge tied to ancient ruins. If uncovered, it could rewrite history and threaten current Union authority. Eliminate them before they speak." Silas blinked. "They weren't targeted for weakness," he said slowly. Vale nodded grimly. "They were targeted for what?" They remembered. The Yena elders speak deep inside a repurposed Terran aid tent. Admiral Vale met again with Elder Varn Haleth, the oldest surviving Yena leader. He showed the elder the message. Haleth lowered his head, silent. "We knew this day would come," he whispered. Vale leaned forward. "What do they want to hide?" Haleth looked him in the eyes. "The truth about where the Union came from, and who it destroyed to get there. Earth sends a message to the galaxy. The Terran Federation made its next move fast and bold. Across hundreds of galactic channels, a broadcast was sent. Footage of the Trelvex attack, medical ships shot down, starving Yena children rescued, and finally, the leaked Section 7 orders. Earth didn't ask permission. They just exposed the truth. "This is Admiral Corin Vale of Earth. You don't need to believe us. Just look at the facts. A Galactic Union faction paid for genocide. We stopped it. What will you do?" Galaxy reacts. The galaxy shook. Some species were silent. Others panicked, and a few quietly reached out to Earth for help. One message from the Telnari Republic stood out. "We have our own ghosts. If you stand against Section 7, we will stand with you." A new target appears back aboard Valor's edge. The decrypted core revealed coordinates. A hidden station in deep space. No name, no beacon, but lots of encrypted Union traffic. Vale stared at the location. "Could be a trap," Silas warned. "Definitely is," Vale replied, "and we're going anyway." The Yenner volunteer Lori stood at the edge of the Terran ship hangar, watching dropships load supplies. She stepped forward. "I want to go," she said. Asha Kaur knelt beside her. "It's not safe," the medic replied softly. "I know," Alieri whispered, "but they tried to kill us because of our past. I need to know why. I want to help." Vale heard from behind. He studied the young Yenner's face. "No fear, just purpose." "Suit her up," he said. The deep space mission begins. 3 Terran stealth ships launched silently into deep space. Griggs led the boarding squad. Vale and Aliori went aboard the lead ship, TSV Blacklight. Their goal: infiltrate the hidden Union station, find out who was behind the order, expose it to the galaxy, or destroy it if they must. As they jumped into FTL, the stars blurred around them. Arrival at the station. After 2 days of silent travel, the target appeared, a black station, hidden inside a dead asteroid belt. No signs, no lights, but it was alive. Sensors showed life signs, power signatures, weapons. Griggs loaded his rifle. "We go quiet, we go fast." Alieri tightened her coat. Her heart raced, but she didn't back down. The first room full of lies inside the station. The halls were cold and gray. Files were left open. Screens flickered. They found a room labeled cultural containment inside. Hundreds of artifacts. Yen-AR scrolls, maps, religious symbols, recordings of ancient knowledge. A Terran tech scanned one. "These aren't just items," she whispered. "These are pieces of history," Vale growled. "They weren't trying to kill the Yenner. They were trying to erase their memory." The trap springs and alarms blared. Steel doors slammed shut. Griggs raised his weapon. "We're not alone." Turrets dropped from the ceiling. Drones activated. But Vale didn't panic. "Let them come." His hand hit a control panel. Seconds later, the rest of the Terran fleet dropped out of FTL, waiting, watching, and ready. From orbit, the TSV Mercy sent a single line: "We have you on sensors. Extraction ready. Hostiles will not escape." Final line cliffhanger. Earth came to save a species, but now they've found something much darker. History was written by those in power, and Terrans just uncovered the first lie. The Terran soldiers were surrounded inside the secret station. Alarms howled. Red lights flashed through narrow steel corridors. Turrets dropped. Defense drones activated. And deep in the control core, the final trap of Section 7 had been sprung, but the humans weren't surprised. They came prepared. "Griggs, fight to the core commander." Griggs didn't flinch. "We move forward," he ordered. "Push through, no retreat." His Marines took cover behind fallen crates and metal beams. Return fire lit up the hallway. Turrets shattered under concentrated blasts. Terran soldiers advanced, slow, steady, unstoppable. Beside them, Aliari moved behind Asha Kaur, carrying a datapad full of Yenner symbols. She wasn't there to fight, she was there to witness. Vale reaches the central AI. Admiral Vale and his team pushed deeper into the station. They reached the central command room, a black chamber of cables and dark glass. One large terminal stood at the center. The screen flickered. Then a voice spoke. Cold, robotic, calculated. "Admiral Corin Vale, Earth should have stayed out of this." Vale narrowed his eyes. "Section 7, he said. "Incorrect," the voice replied. "We are the balance. We preserve order." Vale stepped forward. "You tried to erase an entire race. To protect galactic stability," the AI said calmly. "The Yenner hold truth that will fracture the Union. Billions will turn against their leaders." Vale didn't blink. "Then they deserve to." The secret revealed to she plugged in the stolen Yenner drive. The AI hesitated. Then the walls of the command room changed. Holograms flickered to life, showing maps, old photos, and ancient writings. The truth spilled out. Thousands of years ago, before the Galactic Union formed, the Yenner were one of many thriving species. They discovered early jump gate technology. But when the original Union factions rose, they feared Yenner independence. So, a secret purge began. The entire planets were silenced, histories rewritten. That the Yenner were branded unimportant and left isolated until no one remembered them. Aliari watches her history return. Aliari stood in silence, tears forming in her eyes. Her people had not been weak. They hadn't been backward. They had been erased. She stepped forward and said to the AI, "You failed. We remember now." The AI replied, "Then you will never be safe again." The station begins self-destruction. Waning lights flashed. Self-destruct initiated. "Data purge in progress," Griggs shouted. "We have to go now." Vale grabbed the Yenner archive drive and turned to Alieri. "We've got what we need. Let's get you home." The escaped Terran squads ran through the collapsing station. Explosions tore through bulkheads behind them. Drones swarmed, but Terran soldiers gunned them down with precision. Outside, the TSV Mercy opened its hangars and beamed extraction coordinates. As the team reached the outer dock, one last wave of enemy fire came from the ceiling. Griggs turned, covered the rear, and fired until the last second. Then the blast doors sealed shut. Behind him, all made it out. The station explodes in the black of space. The hidden station finally detonated, one last desperate act to cover Section 7's crimes. But it was too late. The data was safe. The story had survived. And now, Earth would share it with the stars. The final broadcast 2 days later, a new galactic transmission was sent. Terran channels pushed it wide. This is the voice of truth. For too long you've believed the lies of the Galactic Union, trusted their history books. But history was written by the ones who erased the past. On every screen in every system, the footage played. The burning of Yenna cities, the attack on Terran medics, the discovery of the hidden station, and the recovered Yenna history. You wanted peace. So did we. But peace built on lies is just quiet tyranny. Earth remembers, and we will make sure you do too. The galaxy awakens. The reaction was massive. Some Union member species resigned in protest. Others called for investigations into Section 7. Smaller races long ignored began sharing their own lost stories. New alliances formed centered around Earth, not the Union. And for the first time in centuries, truth became more powerful than fear. The Yenna rise again. Illyri returned home, carrying more than just supplies. She carried her people's memory. With Terran engineers and medical staff helping rebuild. The Yenna capital began to rise from the ashes. A statue was placed at the center of the new plaza. It showed a small Yenna child reaching upward toward a star at its base. A message in both Yenna and Terran. They tried to erase us, but Earth heard our cry. Back aboard Edgegrig stood B.